Hey guys, it's Steve here with another CG Geek tutorial. This is an easy do-it-yourself tutorial on creating nice HDRs for dynamic lighting in your CG and 3D scenes. So to do this, all you're going to need is a basic point-and-shoot camera, a tripod, and a little bit of editing software. I use Photoshop Elements. So what we're basically going to be doing is taking a range of images and piecing them together on the camera. Similar to a panorama, except we're going to be taking this a step further and making it a complete 360 HDR. This isn't going to be professional quality. This will be a cheap and easy do-it-yourself option that will work for lighting your CG and 3D scenes. Not so much if you need it for perfect stitched-together photo seamlessly. So, to start off shooting your scene, you're going to want to get your tripod set up nice and sturdy and your camera locked on nicely on top. You'll want to make sure that when you spin your camera around, it's never rotating and it's always straight on and straight centered. I think this is pretty good. Now you're going to turn your camera on and zoom out to your widest focal length. So I'm going to zoom all the way out as far as this camera will go and focus on the average distance in front of you. And now you're going to start shooting your images, starting in a perfect circle around you. So you're going to want to keep in mind of what is on the edges of your frame, and remember that for every time you need to rotate and take another picture, similar to a panorama. Now if your camera has panorama mode, you might be more comfortable using this. You don't have to, but if you feel more comfortable using a panorama mode, go ahead and use that. Now if your camera is set on auto, that will not work well at all. You will need to set it to whatever manual options you have. If it's set to auto, it will be automatically adjusting your scene brighter and darker depending on which direction you're facing. And this will ruin your HDR because there will all be varying exposures and different brightness levels. So you're going to want to turn your camera off of auto and onto any manual settings you have to lock down the aperture and exposure and shutter. So I'm just going to start off snapping a picture here, looking at the image, seeing what's on the edges of the image, rotating the image, and snapping another picture. Rotating again, to the edge of the image again, snapping another picture, and so on. Okay, so now you want to take your camera and tip it upwards, not going completely out of the frame so you can still piece it together later, but we're going to take a few shots now at about a 45-degree angle pointing upwards. So snap one. These shots may or may not be used, but it's always good to have more than not enough. So once you've done that, you're going to do the same thing the opposite way, taking photos looking down at the ground in about 45-degree pitch downward. Alright, so now basically you should have about 3 panoramas worth of images, one around the center, one around a 45-degree angle up, and one about a 45-degree angle down. Now comes the part where we need to take our camera off the tripod. It no longer needs to be on the tripod. And basically you're going to take a shot directly up at the sky, as low as possible, getting all the trees and all the sky in your image. And you do the same thing, taking a shot, looking directly down at the ground, keeping your feet out of the image, and getting it nice and high as possible. These two images will be what we mostly use for completing the 360 HDR. So I think that pretty much finishes up the shooting aspect of your HDR 360 images. Now I'm going to take it over to my desktop and I'll catch up with you guys there where I'll piece together all these images to create our finished 360 HDR.
Okay, so now on my desktop, I'm ready to combine my images and make my 360 panorama environment map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically use the built-in Photoshop plugin because that does a pretty good job, and then you can come back and tweak that and adjust it later. But what I'm going to start off by just going New, Photo Merge Panorama. So I'm using Photoshop Elements. This would work in Photoshop obviously as well, and there might be a similar feature in Gimp or something like that, but I haven't used it. So I'm going to go Photo Merge Panorama, and I want to choose Perspective. And not any of these other options, but I'm going to use perspective. And now I'm going to change it to a folder, and I'm going to browse, and basically I have this saved in my folder here, and I just downloaded all my images onto my computer and threw them in this raw images file. And those are the images I'm going to use, but you'll see they're way too big. Depending on the camera you use, chances are they're going to be way too big. Once you combine that many images into one, it will be huge. So before you do this, what you want to do is basically process multiple files. And to process multiple files, it's very simple. In Photoshop, you basically just choose a source. I'm just going to go to my folder here and choose my raw images as a source, and then make a destination. I'm just going to go choose my destination and make a new folder. And I'll just call them resized. Cool. And that's what you got to do, really. You change the size right here. I like to just do the top proportion and then choose constrained proportions. 1024 is what I want, and you can rename them if you want. I'm just going HDR01. And JPEG, high quality, should be fine. So, cool. That would be all you need to do. And a quick fix, let me uncheck the sharpen there so it's not doing anything to the images. So if you go OK now, it'll basically open up and save out every single file. It'll take a little bit of time, but, not too bad. But basically just going through in a batch, opening each file, resizing it, and saving it out. Okay, so now that that's finished, we can go back to what we were doing with creating a new panorama photo merge. So choose panorama, choose perspective. We're going to choose folder, browse to that new folder we just created, resized, and choose it. Now I need to remove the two images that are meant for the, I mean, you don't have to remove them, but I'm going to remove the top and bottom image. And you can see if I look at them here, let me just choose this option here, or this one here might be better. If I look at my images here, I'll go to my, how come I can't look at those? I'll look at them here. You can see that I have these images that I don't need in the panorama because those will just not work. So I'm going to take out this one, which is going to be number 8, I believe. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe number 7. And I'm going to take out these last two as well. Or, yeah, 2 at the ground there. Actually, last 3 there. So that's what I'm going to do for that. So you can just go remove, and remove any images you want out of the batch. And then I think number 7 as well. Oh, let me quick see here. It's just, whoops, how do I get back? There we go. And I can see right there, it's number 8. So, I don't want to remove number 8. There we go. So those are all my images. And all you go is OK. And basically, that is all you got to do to let the automatic process get going. So very simple, very user-friendly. And now it will go through and do its best job combining all those in a panorama. So that's the first step of the HDR tutorial, and I'll just let that go and come back in a few minutes when that's finished. All right, so after about 6 or 7 minutes, we get this result. If it's just taking too long for your system or computer or whatnot, you might want to try reducing the file size, image size, down from 1024 like I did to something even smaller. Because once you combine all those 1024 images, you have an image that comes out to about 8K. So you may want to reduce that even more depending on your system. But you can see you get a pretty decent result from that automatic panorama. And basically you see all your images, the top ones combined in top, the bottom ones combined in bottom, the shadows all lining up pretty decently. And you know, it'll definitely work for just a HDR lighting, not even if you know rendering it in the background. But a few tweaks we need to do. First of all, you see areas like this, where basically the image, there was no data to put there. And that would be my fault taking the pictures, maybe just moving the camera too much. But anyways, we can tweak those with cloning. So I'm just going to take all these images. I'm pretty happy with what it did automatically. And I'm going to have them all selected, and then just right click one of them and go merge layers. And I guess I didn't have them all selected, so just do that again. Select the bottom one, shift select the top one, and I guess I already have one here. But alright, I'll just use this one then and turn all these off, because in case I ever want to come back, I guess you can do that. So since I already have one merged on top, I don't need all these individual ones. So just with this one now, there we go. I'll zoom in and tweak these blank spots that didn't get didn't get covered. So I'm going to use the clone tool right here in Photoshop. Similar tools in Gimp and other software editors. Use the size about 105, turn the opacity up all the way, and I'm using a slightly blurry brush just so it kind of blends a little better. And now you just basically hold Alt and click where you want to copy, and then you can just draw that area in wherever you want. So I'm going to copy this section over here over that section, and you will never notice that's duplicated. So I'm just going to go boom, right click right about there, and then just draw that over here, going back and forth, drawing that in right there. And now that I'm done, you can see you can't even notice that it's duplicated. And it's super easy and looks super great in areas like this. Other areas might be a little bit more tricky, like the tree here. And this area we have the shadow coming through, so I want to kind of patch that up. But basically I'm just going to do the same thing. Clone over here, draw it over here, and I can come back then with areas of the shadow here, boom, and kind of clone those in there. Something like that. And you can see that looks pretty decent still. So there's patching those areas. We got one more area to patch up here, and this one's a little bit more tricky, like I said, with the tree. But I'm just going to start by copying some of the area down here and make my brush a little bit smaller for this job. I'll go 65. So just option click down there. Whoops, I did that wrong. Option click right there, and then I'll just kind of paint that upwards, something like that. And then grab some of these branches and kind of paint them in there. So not going perfect, but like I said, we're not even using this as a background image. We're using it basically as an HDR map. So just for lighting. But that doesn't look too bad. Pretty repeated, but maybe I can blend some of those other tree branches in there and make it look okay. Some from this side too, maybe over there. That looks a little weird, but that doesn't look terrible. I mean, it doesn't look great as if it was a background image or something, but for lighting is definitely okay. So that looks like most of our center areas are gone, and that'll do it for now. I'm going to crop my image now. So grab your crop tool in the sidebar there, and basically you can see on this side of my image I have this tree here, and this tree is basically the same tree you see right here. So I do not need basically from here over, you know. So I'm basically going to take this and crop that part out of it because I have that information over here. So just bring that over like so and drag it to about there, because this is about the same amount of information to that side of the tree as is cut out from this side of the tree over here. And so that should be pretty identical. Maybe just drag that out just a tad more, but that looks pretty decent. So I'm just going to crop that just to cut the edge back a little bit more there. And let's start working on making this a 360 image. So to be a 360, you have to be able to look up and down in your software 3D program. So I need to do something to make the sky map in a complete 360 and not just in a circular. So to do that, what I'm going to start by doing is, this is a technique that I saw online a while ago, and it goes like this. Basically you go to distort and you use polar coordinates, and this basically pinches the image around like the top section, and you see you get this result. I'm going to use rectangular to polar and just polar coordinates and go OK, and I'll show you what it does. See, it basically wraps the image around the top point of the image, and you get a result that looks like that. And it's actually a pretty cool distort option there. But basically now, what we're going to do for that center part there, to fill that in with something that can be mapped, is I'm going to open up that center image that we shot looking straight up at the sky. So you want to go open, you want to go to your images where you converted them to a smaller size, and let me just grab that up here. You resized, and this is going to be HDR or image 8 for me. So I'll just open that up, and I'm going to use my circular selection tool, and I've given it a feather of 50 pixels, so it will be feathered nicely around the edges. And I'm basically just going to select the top corner area here. My cursor's not visible. I don't know why that's happening, but that's okay. Just select the top corner up here, something like that. Drag it out and go to the bottom. Not, going out of the frame, but just selecting the innermost circle of your image. Command C and copy that, and then back into our Panorama HDR image. We'll just paste that, and you can see already. You can see what we're going to get. We're going to get something that that looks a little bit better. I want to scale it down, and I'm going to try and rotate it so the trees are somewhat lined up. It's definitely not gonna work out perfectly that way, because of how the images was taken. But if you can get something that doesn't look too bad, like that right there, doesn't look terrible, you'll be doing fine. So I'm gonna place this somewhere like that, and it looks okay. So boom, place it, and then I'm going to merge it. So select both of them and merge layers. Now I'm going to come back and tweak the colors just a little bit to kind of make this blend in with this here. And to do that, I'm going to use my dodge tool. My dodge tool. And this basically changes the exposure of the scene depending where you click. And I have my exposure set to something like 22% right now. And so this is going to kind of lighten up everywhere that I click. And you can see that kind of works to just blend that in a little bit on the image. I did that too much, I think, there, but just a little bit. And then you can also come in and use a clone brush. Let me grab my zoom tool here, and where you see like this sharp edge here, grab the clone brush and just clone that over nicely. So just kind of blending that in, and that looks okay. So that will do that, and this area here also needs to be patched. So just a quick clone job will do that as well. Let me grab some of this here and clone it in here. Alright, something like that. Grab some more of it and just kind of paint it in. Grab some of those branches, put them up there. Not getting overly fancy by any means, but getting just a rough image that looks half decent. So something like that gets the job done and doesn't look too horrible. Alright, and that could be darkened a little bit right there as well. So using my dodge tool, I'll switch over to my burn tool, set with a similar exposure and brush size, and I can basically darken that up a little bit with that tool. So very sweet. Cool. So that's looking okay, but now we have to do the same thing on the other side, so it's mapped across the bottom as well. So what I'm going to do is basically go filter, distort, polar coordinates, and go polar to rectangle to go back to normal. Alright, and you can see we have this image warped across the top of our panorama there, kind of crazy like. And basically what we have to do now is just rotate our whole panorama 90 or 180 degrees. So flip it upside down, and now of course if we do the same thing we did before where we distort it, polar coordinates, and then rectangular to polar, we get the bottom section in here. And so we're going to do the same thing that we did with the top. We're going to open up the shot we took looking straight down at the ground here. Cool. And I'm going to grab a selection tool with it feathered and just grab a nice selection of leaves and ground there in the center. Copy it, jump back to my pano, paste it, and let's position it in there. Maybe rotate it so it fits, but it seems to be okay right there. Scale it down quite a bit, keeping it like that, maybe just a little bit bigger then. Alright, and clicking apply. And now we need to kind of blend that a little bit more as well. So before we can apply it, basically if you feather up your eraser brush, you can do some more blending with that if you want to get fancy. So I'm going to make my brush quite a bit bigger there. And that's too big though. And you can do some blending this ways as well to kind of blend areas that don't look so good and areas that might look better in. So something like that. Doesn't look terrible. And maybe even turn the opacity down a little bit so there's just blending a little bit more that ways. Something like that. Alright. And now I need to patch that area up just like I did before with the clone tool. This should be pretty easy because it's all leaves, and that's the easiest stuff. First, let me merge these two layers. So grab them both, and right-click, merge layers. And we'll just paste that in. So doing a quick and dirty job, like we have been doing. And paint that in. And then this side, we'll pull over there, like so. Alright, so there we go. Painted in, nice and dirty, but gets the job done. Oh, there's one in the layer there that I missed. Cool. So it's not perfect, and there's a little bit of like warping still going on here. So if you wanted to be fancy, you can come back and kind of touch that up a little bit more and tweak it. But it's not too bad. And it just needs a little bit of color adjustment like we did before, and kind of shadow up that area a little bit. So using the burn tool, I'll kind of darken those areas up a little bit over there, and a little bit in the center. Then switching to the dodge tool, brighten up the areas that might need brightening up, and make it match nicely. Something like that, maybe blend it in a little bit. And it doesn't look too bad. And it should do the job fine. So I might just want to try and fix some of these real stretched out areas. Those won't look the best. If I grab my clone tool here, where is it? Right there. I can kind of fix those up a little bit and probably get a little bit better result doing that. Cool. That doesn't look too bad. And kind of blend that in. Maybe turn the opacity down a little bit and do some more blending like I was doing before. A little bit of that might help. Something like that around there. So that's not bad. And basically that is it for most of it. All we have to do now is polar coordinates, or render, or distort, I mean. Polar coordinates, pull it a rectangle. Boom, we have our floor done as well. We go rotate right there, and we rotate it 180 degrees. Excellent. We have the image wrapped around the bottom, image wrapped around the top. Now the last thing to do is make it so it tiles basically this side over that side without a seam. And the way we're going to do that is we also have a little bit of edge here along the top, if you see that. So we could quick fix that if we wanted to, but I don't think we need to really worry about it. So yeah, the last thing we need to do is basically go filter, other, offset, and we're just going to offset it by 2,000 pixels or so. And you see, there we go. Right there we have the seam. It's pretty hidden right now as it is. But if you wanted to get fancy and try and touch it up, you really don't have to, though, because I don't see much of anything to touch up. The last time I did this, I had to touch that up a little bit. But if you don't have to, you don't have to. So that's fine. I'll just Command Z that. And our image should be ready to go. Just kind of thinking about that top area there. And I might just crop my image down very slightly to get rid of that. So grab my crop tool right there. Right there. And grab the whole thing and then just pull that top down ever so slightly. Whoops. How do I turn off snapping? Something like... I'll just tap it down a little bit. There we go. That'll do it right there. And checkbox that. Oh, I guess I didn't get it. Let me try that one more time. And there we go. That's pretty much perfect. Except, actually, that gave the bottom a bit. You can also just resize the canvas size if you're having difficulty with that. Just take it from the top there and take it down a little bit. But you can see we have a 5K image here, and that helped. So I'm just going to save it out now. Save as. And if you want to do one last thing, get rid of your shadow. You could pretty easily clone that out as well. I'm just going to leave my shadow in there for now, though. It doesn't matter to me. So I'm going to save as image. And basically just save it as a... There's no option to save like as an HDR file. You need special software to do that. But I'm just going to save it as a PNG, which is pretty high quality. And I'll just save it as woods_HDR panorama. And basically save that out. So 5K image right there, like I said. And now I want to quick jump over to some editing software. I'm going to use Blender and show you guys how you can open up an environment texture like this. So it's taking a little bit of time to save out just because it's such a big image. But give it a second and it will manage. Alright, so now over in Blender 3D, I'm going to open up an environment texture. So I'm just going to quick switch to the cycles render, go to our environment tab here, use nodes, and click that little checkbox there and choose environment texture. And basically, it's already set to equirectangular right there. That's what we want, not a mirrored ball, but a equirectangular. Try and say that 10 times fast. And open up your image. So I'm just going to quick jump to where I have mine saved here. There you go. Open it up. And maybe turn the strength down a little bit. But now if I switch to rendered view, you'll see, moving around with the middle mouse button, we have a completely tiled HDR. Now things aren't perfect looking, you know, when you look up you have some issues, some stretching issues, some tree issues, you know. But this was quick and easy, and we had free software, or mostly free software, and cheap materials, and we have a great looking HDR for lighting. So I'm just going to quick add in a reflective ball here. So I'm just going to Shift A and add in a UV sphere here. And I want to quick give it a shiny material so you can see what I'm talking about with these reflections. So all I have to do is give this a glossy material here, and you'll see just how good it works for reflections. I'm going to turn the roughness down here quite a bit, and let me just turn that background off so you see just the reflections. There you go. You don't see any stretchiness when you have it, you know, in a reflection, and basically you can get your own lighting for models in 3D scenes, and that's why I took this HDR here, because I need it for some lighting. And light your scene properly with the HDR. So there's a quick and dirty do-it-yourself cheap option for creating HDRs. I was really happy when I worked this out and were able to start making my own HDRs, because it saves a lot of time and gives you a lot more realism to your scenes. And you can see, just for lighting purposes, our ball here has some nicely lit colors matching the environment around it. And that's basically how you create your own HDR. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in my next tutorial.